Hello, hello, I'm Jake Manowski and welcome to the next BetterUI series video. And in this one, I wanted to have another look at Booking.com's search bar on their homepage. I have a couple variations or explorations based on some of the good UI fast forward patterns, which I also wanted to put to use. And I wanted to show you kind of quickly how I use fast forward to separate the potentially stronger ideas from the ones that have maybe less probability of working. So that's a powerful tool in terms of predicting what may lead to an improvement. And so I'll be touching upon that as well here. So here's kind of a bird's eye view of how I typically set up the space when I want to kind of explore some ideas. So here, one of the kind of first things I keep in mind is setting some sort of primary goal of what should be improved, what should be optimized, what should be increased, something that's measurable. In this case, I took a hypothetical goal of increasing bookings. And a secondary goal, which I think probably leads to bookings, are qualified searches. So obviously Booking.com's apartment or hotel kind of search directory. And on their homepage here, we have this, this prominent search, right? Asking for destination, check-in, number of people, and search. And then the second thing I kind of quickly took were screenshots of just to kind of surface maybe a key flow. So, I mean, obviously this is the default state. This is kind of an expanded state for whenever someone presses, expands one of the menus here. Here's another state. And then it's also good practice to kind of have another a second, kind of a consecutive screen, just to stretch the kind of the understanding of what might come next and what kind of the next screens might look like. So that's a search results screen, just to think a little bit through as well. Then I also have here's a very quick source of inspiration. It's basically a self kind of an assessment, a heuristic evaluation of sorts. So this is where I might jot down a handful of issues or problems that worthy of exploring and improving. Of course, these can come from your own experience, from your own instincts. They can also come from user research for customer complaints. And thirdly, we will also be using, of course, past test results to inspire some ideas. Okay, so that's what we have today. That's what the current state is. And then on the right, we have explorations. So ideas for how something can be improved. Okay, so quickly here I sketched out the default state, which is essentially the control or whatever is there today. And as you see, basically going downwards, I start exploring some ideas. Okay, so one potential problem which I identified here was that some of these kind of choices here for expressing the number of people who are seeking accommodations for is a little bit hidden. By that I mean you have to click, and then you have to click again, which leads into issues of kind of maybe there's a quicker, more efficient way of expressing these or letting users increase number of people. So that's what we call here in this variation exposed options. Just thinking of adding these extra buttons here, which would kind of increase or decrease the number of humans seeking accommodation. Okay. This is also coming from past test data here, which we have under Good UI Fast Forward. So again, we have a pattern for this, suggesting to expose menu options, trying to kind of, instead of hiding options inside of pull downs, make them a little bit more visible. And the key value that I'm looking for, that I'm using on projects such as these, is repeatability, which is essentially a count of how often something has worked. 1 point is given to a winning test result, which are of course shown underneath here. Half points are kind of given to suggestive tests and so forth. So we take that number, and essentially it's an indication of the more something has worked before in a real experiment, the more likely it's going to lead to, again, positive results. So that's how we tag this idea. We attribute it as +3 more points. Okay, moving on. We also have some options here. So once we actually expand adults and children, there is another option here called rooms. And just playing along with that same idea, what if an additional option here was shown and rooms were shown, and the same kind of similarity here with additional pluses and minuses for those room numbers of rooms. Okay. In this situation, getting kind of in a little tricky situation where we have some evidence for exposing these options, but we also have another pattern which goes against that, and that's pattern 3, which suggests that typically, the fewer fields we have, the better. So by adding another form field in a way here, we're bringing in some probability, and kind of that cancels itself out, and possibly this might be kind of a negative idea. Okay, so one positive pattern here, one negative pattern here, and a net negative probability. This value here is my own subjective confidence, which I'm staying at neutral. I'm not kind of voting here with anything. So 0 is kind of neutral. It can be between -3 and +3. All right. So here we are. Next variation. Okay. So this comes from, have a look again at this. What's happening here? Someone expands this menu, and we have adults and children here. And I'm making a subjective judgment here that it kind of feels weird that, we have adults here and then adults in a completely different position, children in a completely different position. So when this, when this menu opens up, we have this inconsistent repositioning of values, which might put a kind of a cognitive strain on someone. And this idea here, we don't have any kind of patterns for this yet. We have no test data, but that doesn't matter. I mean, we can still make, we can explore our own ideas here. So that's what has happened here. And all I'm making kind of a guess here is, what if this was a little bit more consistently positioned? So obviously adults in the same column, children in the same column, and then rooms in the last column. That way, if someone's clicking on adults, they kind of see the same value types there. Okay, additional kind of more links to express more values, higher values. Okay, also selected states, and this also solves the issue of having menus within menus, which is seen here. This really looks awkward to me. You have to do 2 clicks and then a menu expands within a menu. So in this situation is a perfect example of having, again, no data, but that doesn't stop us from exploring. We don't limit ourselves to only the stuff we have. And I actually made use of some subjective confidence. A 2 is basically like a likely statement of this being a good idea. Again, we limit ourselves to -3 being a for sure terrible idea, +3 being for sure an amazing idea, and a 2 kind of being a little bit less than that. All right. So now we sum that up, and we have a 2. Moving on, calendar. Okay. I didn't take a screenshot of the calendar, but basically in the control, we have this set as text, November, and then December. These are not clickable. And playing around with this idea of allowing flexible input dates. All right, so obviously booking allows you to kind of set ranges, which is great. But what if people kind of think maybe sometime they want to go sometime maybe in November or maybe sometime in December? And that's what these little links here would possibly allow for. So anytime in November, anytime in December, clicking on these would set a wider search date range. Okay. So perfect if you're thinking about, okay, maybe sometime in the summer I want to go, maybe in July and June and such. All right, so a little bit more forgiving. No test data for this. I don't know if it's a good idea, just being honest here with myself. So setting it as a 0. Okay, again, 0 is not bad. It's really neutral, right? We're going from negative infinity to positive infinity. Next thing, top aligned labels. So notice what Booking's doing here. I'm sure they probably tested this and they have some good reasons for doing so, but all these labels are inside. Okay, it's actually not that, I mean, it's actually not that bad, because when you make a selection, they actually have, like in this case here, they keep the active label here. So 2 adults, 0 children. In this case, however, they show the dates. So maybe the label's not that much needed. Where you going disappears and gets replaced with your whatever address or city. Nevertheless, we do have a pattern stating to possibly keep the labels in case people might want to have a good reference point. So something like this. Nope, that's not the one. It's pattern 5. Okay. And basically this pattern suggests, yeah, to move labels above and keep them visible. Okay. We have a point for that. And again, as I've been kind of feeling, yeah, that the control isn't that actually bad, and it has pretty meaningful data types once you start filling them in. Hence, I kind of attributed a negative feeling to this concept and netted these out, summed them as a 0. Okay. Moving on to the next idea. What if we combined labels with example data? So where you're going, and then inside the field have temporary kind of example data such as city or address, just to cue people what they can type in here, month and day, and at this for this idea, I kind of maintained neutrality here in terms of subjective judgment, and still kept the same point for the same test, and hence this one gained a little bit more strength. Okay. This idea continues to build on that. So very similar, also has the top aligned labels, has the example data, and then has a bit of a cue, a bit of a trigger here, just to invite the interaction. If someone's not hasn't focused yet on this field, the simple idea here is to maybe animate kind of dummy data, dummy examples, like over time, maybe this starts filling in Amsterdam, then starts erasing, maybe starts entering another city. All this is probably doing is with motion is maybe capturing some attention. And then of course, as a user focuses the field, that would disappear and not obstruct and allow someone to actually type something in. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a good one or not. Again, a 0 here. Nevertheless, it still maintains the point from the other pattern there, and has a little +1 value. All right. Next idea here, multiple step search. So if someone actually enters their destination, let's say a city such as Toronto, the idea here is to force the selection of a date, of a check-in and check-out date. So in this case, what you see is kind of like a bit of a modal, and it reassures people that, you know, hey, we have some listings for Toronto for whatever the user has typed in. And then please, essentially asks them to enter their dates. This is coming from a pattern which has been tested quite often. Okay, which we call multiple steps. So typically when we break stuff down into smaller chunks, that has positive impact. So it has worked numerous times here. And essentially we take this value and yeah, we have some evidence for it. So we charge this idea with positive evidence. My own judgment here is I'm maintaining neutrality. I'm feeling like 0 here. And yeah, nevertheless, I get a pretty solid points for in terms of probability here. Okay. Moving on, gradual reassurance. Okay, what's gradual reassurance? The idea is to withhold from asking people to kind of search for something or providing information with input, and surface a very, very easy choice, very unambiguous choice that people think might matter and be valuable in terms of providing high quality kind of search results. And once people express that, then we ask for the search or for more information. This has worked numerous times in terms of lead generation and increasing signups and increasing engagement. So we kind of took this and applied this to the homepage of Booking. The choice in this idea, which I'm asking for exploring, is essentially asking for how many people, you know, are in need of accommodation. With some choices here, maybe an option to express more values, and then kind of like a skip button, like maybe decide later. Maybe I don't care about this, right? So we have some. We're pulling this value from past experiments, from fast forward, and my own judgment here is I think it's a terrible idea. I think it won't work because I don't know, the search here I think people are so used to entering, expressing a city or address that. Yeah, I think it might be negatively impact something like this. So that's that's my maximum. Like we cap these guesses a -3. I also think that people are aware of that investment when they enter, a city such as Toronto or address. They know that's going to provide them with high quality results that are narrowed in. So I think they're okay at putting in some effort and entering, providing a couple seconds of their lives for slightly better search results. Nevertheless, this kind of gets subtracted. It still has some positivity to it from past experiments. Might be worth trying this out, and even just to confirm that maybe there's some cases where this pattern breaks down. An experiment would shed more light on this. Building on this idea, I'm further kind of asking myself, is there any way this could be slightly improved? Is there any kind of question that we can ask someone that people are really, 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 eager to provide? And I don't know, maybe something around Wi-Fi. Is that something that of a, I don't know, high value kind of qualifier? And a way simpler question here. So again, starting with something like, hey, do you need free Wi-Fi or not? And then reassuring that people, essentially, once they make that selection, confirming that kind of selection here. Hey, so where are you going that where free Wi-Fi is needed? And that becomes the second step. Further building on this is trying to kind of solve the issue of people might be looking for the search bar. Again, this is disabled here, so I still feel, as you can see here, like this is probably a bad idea. These are all nevertheless, again, trying to squeeze in this choice here, again, like this free Wi-Fi as a lead-in to the search. Highly exploratory. Most likely this stuff won't work. This might shed some light into some future iterations here. Okay, so that's how we kind of quickly use fast forward patterns. And as a result of this, we have when we have the core design issue that we're trying to solve here is that when we have 10 or plus or ideas or so, they are not all equal. They are not all with a 50-50 probability. Some ideas are better than others. So here's something that sticks out. Maybe here's another thing that sticks out. I think this one becomes surfaced as well. And the tool becomes a prioritization tool in a way. So given these sets of ideas, we might act on these because they have more points, more probability. Of course, the decision to test or implement or group them together, that becomes something to consider later on. But now we have sets of ideas which are varied in terms of their probability. Stronger ones and weaker ones as well here. Okay. And I mean, typically when I kind of quickly look at something like this, I also might do open up a set of patterns which might inspire this kind of thinking. And I think what I've done when I set out on this project is I might have opened up something like this. Hey, show me whatever 20 form patterns, and I kind of scan them through, once with the highest probability. Of course, fewer form fields is at the top. Gradual reassurance, I think that was in the concept. I might also look at hey, show me patterns for a given screen. So maybe home page or landing page patterns. And this becomes also used as inspiration alongside some of the ideas that just seem obvious or come from intuition, and of course other ideas which might come from customer research or user research. Okay, so combining those three sources, you can come up with like really powerful ideas. All right. Hopefully this was useful. Hopefully this inspires you to think about exploring ideas and using past test data and how to set up your canvas. And let me know what you think, if you have any questions or comments. All right, thanks.